Yeah.
Huh?
Had to beat you to it this time.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, cool. Hey, welcome to House Parties, guys. We're excited you're here.
Me too.
Yeah. Are you really?
Well, you did say we, so that's weird. We are, and me too. Who's the other person? Jesus.
My kids actually have 2 imaginary friends.
Really? That's
and they've
cool.
had them for about 3 years.
Are either of them creepy?
No. One is named Adam. I forget the other one's name, but like they met him at a park in Windsor. It was maybe 2.5 years ago. It was during COVID. And he came home with us in the car. They buckled
creepy. It's so creepy.
It's so weird. But like they haven't forgotten, and it's Ashton and Nolan. Like that's their thing. They talk about Adam and then this other one. And so like there's times where I've left the house and they're like, "You forgot Adam," and I'm like, "Now he's up here."
Oh,
Which I
man.
can't do with Brianna anymore because she sits in the front. So
Yeah.
parenting.
I think
exciting.
that's creepy. I think imaginary friends are kind of creepy.
Okay, but did you ever read Calvin and Hobbes growing up?
Yes.
And it was amazing.
It was beautiful.
And that was what?
But it was a stuffed animal.
That was his imaginary friend.
It's one
that became
thing if a
real-life
kid
tiger.
is pretending a stuffed animal is alive, but it's another if it's just like has
Maybe
no
their
physical
level of
form at all.
creativity is just so good.
That's true.
They don't need an animal.
Yeah.
All right, well, enough about my children. I've got to be with them all day. Tonight, we're here with you, though. We are so excited you guys are here. Tonight, we're going to be wrapping up our just conversation about the book of 1 Timothy,
Yep.
which is super cool.
Yep.
Excited about that.
Yep.
Before we get into that, we got a couple announcements for you. So, number one, summer calendars are out. I posted on Instagram 2 days ago, so on Monday I did. And then we're going to have handouts at the next student night for you guys. But there's some key events coming up in May and June and July that we want you to pay attention to, mainly the Rockies game
Yes.
on the 21st.
That's so fun.
It's so okay. My favorite Rockies moment. Some of you guys remember Andrew Elmendorf. Dorf.
Oh, yes. This is a good story.
Oh yeah. So what's the game called? It's
The odds game.
The odds game, right? And so
Or what are
basically-
the odds?
What are the
Yeah.
odds? So you basically got to say a number. If it adds up to the same, or if they say the same, they've got to do what you tell them to do.
Yeah.
But you tell them ahead of time. And so I was there. It was Megan Pratt, and the what are the odds are like, hey, what are the odds you take your ice cream cone, which is a big old ice cream cone, take Dorf's hat off his head,
Yep.
and just slam it on his bald head. And so she said something like 1 to 20, and we got it. And she's like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
So Dorf had been gone when we did it. He
Yeah.
came back, he sat down,
Yeah.
and I'm like, hey, Dorf, and what are the odds, like, if you lose, you have to do it, right? He's like, yeah, no questions asked. I'm like, so it's, like, really rude if you don't do it. It's like, yeah. I'm like, so if you lost right
was
now,
genius.
you would do it, right? He's like, yeah, of course. Like, that's Bush League not to do it.
That's
I was like,
so
cool.
smart.
I looked at Megan. He looked up front. She took his hat off and slammed the cone. And he looks back at me. He's just got ice cream dripping all down his face. He got up, walked away. We didn't see him for an hour.
Oh, so good.
It was so good. So those are the kind of memories we get to make when we go to Rockies games. So
Yeah.
we would love for you guys to be there. It's
Yeah.
going to be a blast.
It'll be really fun.
Then we've got the Crest Movie Night coming up.
Yeah.
We've got our next student night coming up where we're
Yeah.
going to have our upcoming 7th graders preview. We've got the ice cream party from the Impossible Shot.
Yes. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Nathan.
I feel
That's
like I accomplished a lot doing that.
it's pretty incredible.
Honestly, without Josh telling me to do it, I would not have remembered to do it.
All right.
And without you holding the sign right where you held it. So
I
like
know.
this is as much your victory as mine.
I
feel like it is.
All right.
Yeah.
It's very gracious.
And then lastly, mission trip. So I think we have 6 spots left.
Woo!
And so if you want to go, you got to get signed up
Yeah.
ASAP. We started signups earlier this year. Typically, we don't even start getting people to sign up till now. So to
know.
have like 90% of our spots already gone,
Yeah, that's crazy.
kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
So get signed up. If you want to go, talk to me, talk to Setson. We'd love for that to happen.
Yeah, and if you have not heard us say this before, we're 100% serious. If money is the main issue preventing you from coming, you're wrong. Like, we want you to come. So
Yeah,
just-
Moneybag Stetson will pay
Yeah,
for
that's
you.
right. So just talk to me or Nathan, and we'll figure it out. And guaranteed, we'll make it so that you can come. I promise.
Yep. Cool. All right. Got some slices. What do you got?
I learned of a movement that was not started seriously, but it gained traction. And I would imagine, I think most of the people know that this is a joke. But the person who started it, it was definitely a joke, but I wouldn't be surprised if some people caught on to this conspiracy theory. But the group is Birds Aren't Real. And it's this conspiracy theory that the United States government massacred all birds and replaced them with drones that are spying on us. And all the birds that we see are not real birds, but robot drone birds that are spying on us. And on their website, they have T-shirts. And
I want to buy one.
some of my favorites, there's one of a pigeon, and it just says, "I am a liar." There's another one with a pigeon, and it just says, "Pigeons are liars." And this is another one, "If it flies, it spies." And the guy, I think he's like in his early 20s. He's been doing this for 5 years, touring the United States, holding rallies, chanting, "Birds aren't real." Like he has a van.
Dude, that's the kind of guy who's like, hey, I don't want to get a real job in my life,
Right.
so I'm going to create some bogus thing. I bet he makes money. I bet he's got a
he
whole
does.
501c3.
He dropped out of college, and once he started making enough money on shirts to not have to work, that's when he went on tour. So that he got tired of doing it. Like his friends that helped him, they're kind of going off and doing different things. But their final rally was outside of Twitter. And demanding that they change their logo.
Change your logo. Birds aren't real.
Right, exactly.
Man.
So, yeah.
I feel like I'm going to get you one of those shirts for Christmas.
I would love one of those shirts for Christmas. I'm a medium.
You're a medium. Cool.
Yep.
All right, so for mine, it actually also involves a conspiracy theory.
Oh, cool. Maybe.
So you know, like, there's people out there who think that these mythical creatures are real?
Sure.
Like Bigfoot?
Yep.
What's another one?
Loch Ness Monster.
Loch Ness, Nessie,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
Well, there's also this whole group of people who think mermaids are real.
Oh.
All right, now mermaids, you guys know what a mermaid is, right? You guys have seen the movie as a little kid, Little Mermaid. It's basically half human, half fish. And, you know, the whole lore of the mermaid, it actually goes back thousands of years into, like,
cool.
the Greco-Roman culture. And then,
Okay.
like, sailors dealt with this kind of stuff. And they've really kind of popped up all over the world, which is actually pretty fascinating when you look into it. But not long ago, and the source of this video hasn't been confirmed yet, whether it was in Korea or China, so that alone makes me go, eh.
Yeah.
But, like, some people, they got a video online that's a mermaid they found in the water, washed up on the beach.
What?
Dude, I know. Like, here, check this out. And if I remember, I'm gonna definitely throw a picture up for everybody to see. But like, look at this thing.
Oh my gosh.
Doesn't that look pretty real? I mean, not
Weird.
real. It's like it almost looks like there's this fish type thing that ate this
Oh, and it's
child, and it's got red hair. Obviously, the red
moving.
hair.
It looks
is
like
kind
a
of
seal has half eaten a purple child.
I know, but like the child is moving around. You see the arms and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyways, I just thought this was really crazy. So you got governments coming out going like, no, that's not real. Like Korea said it, China said it. They're like, that's just a kid that got ate by a fish. But then you look at the people who are around this thing, and they're not acting like this child just got ate by a fish. They're like totally normal. Like if I saw one of my kids get eaten by a fish, I'd be like trying to pull them out.
Yeah.
But anyways, I just thought that was really fascinating. I saw it this morning. I showed it to my daughter, Carson, because for her birthday she got money and she bought a mermaid costume.
Oh, nice.
And so when she was wearing the mermaid costume, I was like, hey, you want to see a real mermaid?
Oh, no.
It's like, that's not a mermaid, Daddy. I don't know. Maybe,
Oh, nice. Very good.
Maybe it is. I
Very
don't know. My
intuitive
kid is
Carson.
very intuitive and smart.
Nice.
Ironically, that mermaid had red hair. My daughter also has red hair. Yeah.
All right, well.
Cool. Well, shall we dive into 1 Timothy and wrap this up?
Yes, chapter 6.
Cool. Why don't you set the table?
Okay. I don't know if that's even in the shot. There's a table right here if you can't see it. That's why that was funny. You see, he said set the table, and there's a table in front of us, and then I gestured towards the table, and that's why that was funny.
It wasn't really that funny.
Okay.
You know what I miss, though?
What?
I miss your interviews when we
Oh,
did get to know your leaders. Your
yeah.
whole deadpan Zach Galifianakis thing.
Yes, that was so
Brilliant.
fun.
We should bring that back.
We should bring that back. Okay. All right. Verse 1 and 2
What,
mentions...
do you want to set up kind of what we're doing first?
Oh,
for anybody?
that's what you meant.
Yeah,
I thought you
no.
meant just bringing stuff up.
Not, yeah. It's
Okay,
like, tell everybody what we're doing.
We are on the final week of looking at a book of the Bible called 1 Timothy, and it was a letter written to a young man named Timothy by an older man named Paul. Paul was kind of his mentor, advisor, guidance counselor, and Timothy was in Ephesus. Yeah. So this country called, or is Ephesus a city, or a country? Okay, city of
They're
Ephesus.
basically city-states back then.
Yeah, a lot of weird religions and pagan practices and stuff, but he is there to tell people about Jesus, which has so much more hope in life than these other things did. And it's a really challenging thing. So it's challenging for Timothy, and it's challenging for the people of Ephesus too. And yeah, it's weird how much this letter written back then to this guy has to do with us.
Yeah, and that's actually kind of one of the reasons that we chose it, because Timothy was such a young guy, and it was advice given to him as he's a leader and kind of operating in this culture of how to like do it in a way that reflects Jesus to people who are far from him.
Yeah.
Like we thought, like, man, that's like you guys, right? You look around our world, you know, there are parts of it that maybe are a little more friendly to the gospel message, but I'd
sure.
say on a whole, like we're not in a very religious place. We're actually in a place that kind of sometimes denounces religion and tries to get us to move away from it.
Yep.
And for you guys, like your schools, just the world you live in, it's like, man, it can be hard sometimes to follow Jesus. Like it could be hard to know what to do, how to do it, and sometimes even why to do it. And so we thought walking through this letter in house parties would be a really great way just to kind of figure out some practical things for you guys in your day-to-day about how to love Jesus and to show other people Jesus.
Yeah, and I think another big similarity to this letter is like we live in a world that is desperately in need of people who have hope. Like, it can be depressing out there. Like, not for everybody, but for a lot of people, like, just a lot of dead ends, things that they're gonna think that they think are just gonna be like really fulfilling and life-giving, just like end up being nothing, and then they're just like, what is the point?
When I saw a study the other day that was done recently, 40% of teenagers, so this is like you guys, claim that almost every moment of every day they're feeling some form of mild to severe depression.
That's terrible.
And that came from the CDC.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so your friends need hope. A lot of you guys need hope. And hopefully as we walk through this, we can find some of that.
Mm-hmm. But what's cool is like Timothy, like you guys are like a lot of you believe the same things that Nathan and I do. And with that comes like the sense of hope and this ability to love people in ways more than you would expect. And so like you guys are out there giving people what they need. Like God is using you in the lives of your friends, even if you're not like explicitly talking about Jesus and where this hope comes from, just treating people with dignity and love and respect. And like you see a friend crying in the hallway, like sitting down and just talking with them in a way that nobody else does. Like that's not normal, and it makes a huge difference.
Well, I mean, in so many ways, like that ties directly into what our whole goal is as a church.
Yes.
Right? We want to help people experience life. And you can't experience life without hope.
Right.
So
yeah. All right, so we're looking at the last chapter, which is chapter 6. What stood out to you, Nathan?
Oh man, there was so much in here. So the first thing, it's actually like the first couple verses. So back in that culture, like they had slaves. And obviously we can look on that now and go like, yeah, that's not cool or anything like that. But back then slavery was like kind of a lot different than nowadays. I mean, sometimes people were forced into it, but more often than not, people actually chose to be this thing called a bondservant. Right? A bondservant is basically indentured servitude for 7 years where you're like, hey, you're going to take care of me for 7 years and pay me, but I'm going to work for you to kind of earn that thing there. And so one of the things that happened in this culture is that there were some of the masters who didn't necessarily treat their bondservants the nicest. And conversely, there were some, bondservants who really didn't have a lot of love and respect for their masters. And so when Paul is kind of setting this whole thing up, he's like, man, like, hey, if you're here and you're a bondservant, there's actually a reason he does this. He's like, treat your master as somebody who's actually worthy of honor, especially if there's somebody who follows Jesus, right? And so really what Paul is trying to do here, and you guys can read those verses, is he's trying to help people see that beyond these things that maybe our world would use to classify us, whether it's your race, whether it's your gender, whether it's your socioeconomic status, he says that when you're in Christ, there's actually this deeper fundamental thing that connects the two of you. And when you look at another person, that's what you need to see. You need to see what Jesus sees. You need to see this connection that you have as people who've placed your hope and your faith and your trust in Jesus, because at the end of the day, that's way more important than anything else. And if somebody who is loved by Jesus is somebody you know, and Jesus loves them and cares about them, well, you should love them and care for them too. And ultimately, I think where Paul is going with this is like, hey, guess what? Everybody is loved and cared for by Jesus.
Yeah.
And it's almost like Paul takes away any excuse that we could ever have to be rude to somebody, to be mean to somebody, to tear somebody down, because at the end of the day, when you strip all that other stuff away, they're still somebody who's been created in the image of God.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's powerful.
Yeah. And it might be interesting for you guys to explore what relationships do you have with anybody in your life that is just vaguely similar to this like bondservant mentality of like, is there anybody that is in charge of you, that kind of has authority over you and is asking you to do things that you wouldn't normally do on yourself? And like, how are you supposed to treat those people based on this scenario?
Yeah, and we're not talking about like bad illegal things.
Of course,
yeah. Just do it under the Lord. No.
No.
Like, but like if you're at work and you've got a boss who's like, hey, I need, or a teacher,
or parents,
or a
like
parent.
asking you to do chores or something like that. But yeah,
but it's all about honor.
Yeah,
like, can we honor other people?
Yes. If someone in authority is asking you to do something that is illegal or you are uncomfortable with, like seriously, talk to your parents, talk to your leaders. Yeah. Okay, moving on. So verses 3 through 5 are talking about what we call false teachers. And I doubt you guys have been exposed to like a lot of like serious accusations of like, this person's a false teacher, this person's a false teacher. But I think to just like help you explore this passage, I think the core of what this is saying is pay attention to what the result is of what people are saying and how they're living their life. And the result of what they're doing and saying will show you whether or not it's true. So a false teacher could be someone who's like intentionally trying to manipulate people to believe something that they know is wrong.
Yep.
Or it could be someone who's convinced of something, but they're just actually wrong and they don't even know it. But unknowingly, they're convincing people of this. So it'd be really interesting to explore is like, who is that today?
Well, and I think we talked about this like maybe in week 1 or 2 of the series, but like for you guys, because so many of you are so young in your faith, like it's really important to make sure that you're thoughtful about who you listen to. Just because somebody has a lot of followers on TikTok and they put out Christian videos, it doesn't mean they actually know what they're talking about. Just because somebody's the pastor of a big church, it doesn't mean that there's somebody you should be listening to.
Yep.
At the end of the day, and I love this about Paul, like in so many of his letters, he goes like, hey, like don't just believe me because I say it. Like go look at the Gospels, go look at the life of Jesus, like actually pray about this stuff to see if it's true, right? And there's kind of, I think, this invitation for us that Paul's given Timothy is like, hey, like make sure that you're teaching the people to actually be critical thinkers.
Yep.
Not just to be like, well, Stetson's a pastor, he said it, so I guess the flying spaghetti monster's a real thing.
Yeah.
Which apparently people, believe that. But like,
Next Gen Wizard
told me.
It's spoken.
But yeah, I think that's a really, really important thing, like, because the things that we consume, right, the stuff that we put into our mind and our heart, like, it's going to shape what we actually start to believe.
Yeah.
And so we've got to be critical. And that's not to say that we don't pay attention to some of this other stuff, because we should. We just got to make sure that the stuff we actually internalize in our heart, that it's actually what God has given us in the world, that it's not just something the culture has told us that we like and resonate with, so we embrace that and just try to put the Jesus stamp on it.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that was good. Well, there's this other piece in here that I think is and I'm not going to read it because it's a little bit long, but it's verses 6 through 10. And what Paul is talking about, in essence, like if I were to sum it up with one word, it's this word contentment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you guys know this. We live in a very materialistic world, right? So we've always got to get the new phone, the new game, the new gaming system, a new car. We need more money. We need more status, right? We need more followers. And I feel like for so many of us, we've lost touch with what it means to just be satisfied with what we have.
Yep.
Right? Because when we're pursuing these other things, like, and this is what Paul's telling Timothy, like, we actually miss out on the opportunity to enjoy and experience the things that God has actually already given us.
Yeah.
And we can never learn to be happy. And also in the pursuit of things, often what we do is we abuse and use people to get those things. And we can't even enjoy the people who are around us.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to bring that up and say, like, hey, you know, if you guys are looking for a topic to maybe lean into, those verses 8 to 10 that talk all about riches and just being satisfied with what you have, it's like, dude, you got clothes, you got food, a roof over your head. Like, you're doing better than like 80% of the world. Like, be happy, right?
Yep.
Be content.
Yep.
Because contentment, and actually science backs us up, when we can learn to be content, we actually end up being happier.
Yeah.
Right? People who get rid of social media and like get rid of Twitter, their happiness spikes through the roof because they're no longer looking at what they don't have. They just get to enjoy what they already do.
Yep. Yeah,
So,
for sure.
Maybe you could talk about that.
Yeah, verses 17 through 19 tie into that too. Like, it really gets into the money aspect of that. So, but I think you said it well. I don't think I need to add anything on to that for sure. Cool.
Any last minute things that
I don't
stand out
think
to you?
so. I would say it's been really helpful to me after reading through this once to go to the Message translation. Like, for this exercise, for what we've been doing, it's been super helpful. So just a suggestion to throw out there.
Yeah, and while you guys do that, maybe spend a little time on verses 11 to 12 as well. Because that's kind of like Paul's wrapping up his whole thing, where he's like, hey, here's everything that people are doing wrong, here's where they go astray, but for you, I want to encourage you, pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, steadfastness, and gentleness. Fight the good fight of faith.
Yep.
Take hold of the eternal life for which you've been called.
Yeah.
And I want to get a letter like this from someone one day.
Yes, I would too. And that's
I
where
bet they would too.
Yeah, and that's where we might have some good news for you guys, or something that might be really meaningful to you. When we were thinking about the reason why we picked this book of the Bible and thought about it, it's like, wow, it's so cool that Paul took the time to write a letter to Timothy explaining the good things that he saw in him and to encourage him and to just give him wise advice. We thought it would be a good idea for all of us leaders to write letters to you guys. And so your leaders have written you letters that they're going to give to you tonight. Now, if this is your first time,
we don't have a letter for you.
It would be just as weird for you as it would for us to receive a letter from someone you just met. So please don't feel left out. Like, please don't be offended by this or like anything like that. It's just we haven't gotten to know you yet, and we're really, really excited to get to know you.
Yeah.
And if it has been like 5 or 6 weeks since you've been here and like we've been texting you and you haven't responded to texts and stuff, we probably just didn't expect you to come tonight, and we're thrilled that you were here tonight, but we didn't write you a letter. But again, please don't be offended by that. It's I think you understand. So.
But if they want a letter, tell us and we'll make it happen.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Though that would be weird to like, can you write me a letter? It's like, no, if you're gonna keep coming,
I don't know.
We'll make up. Yeah,
we'll make up for it. We will,
yeah.
but I don't know. Like, everyone needs to be encouraged.
Right, for sure. But I'm saying you don't even need to ask. Now that we know that you're coming back again, of course your leader would love to write you a letter. So that'll happen. It's important that we read the Bible. It's important that we read it together because it's confusing and it doesn't make sense a lot of the time, and that's okay. But I hope you guys experienced in just taking time to look at the Bible together, you're able to do it, and God shows us things in it, and it's really cool.
Yeah.
All right.
We're going to hand it off to house party leaders. You guys should have some questions to be able to lead your group through. But we'll see you next week.